Hello and welcome, my 7 subscribers, half of which are probably bots, and the other half are probably related to me. So a few nights ago, me and my family sat down and watched Scoob, and while I definitely did not hate it, it was pretty disappointing, to say the least. It was just kind of a big old mess. It was a big old mess. But to be fair, it did have one big positive involving some of the emotional moments. Hence why I called it an emotional mess. Not just a mess. An emotional one. Okay, today I'm gonna get into my one big positive, but why overall I think this is a messy, messy, messy movie. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby, be ready for your act. Okay, the one thing I can definitely say I enjoyed a lot about this movie was Shaggy and Scooby. Their dynamic and friendship worked really well for me. And you know what, I'll say it. It got a little emotional at times, It was a little emotional. And of course, I would never, ever, ever admit to crying at a Scooby-Doo movie. But I got pretty close. Please don't judge me. Shaggy and Scooby feel like real friends, and they really were the heart of this film. And I thought all of their friendship struggles and Shaggy's arc, I loved all of it, and I thought that all that stuff, the emotional moments hit, and I thought the story for them worked. And even though Shaggy is not the original voice actor, I thought the new actor Will Forte really brought his own to the raw. Brought his own to the raw. Will Forte came in and he added his own to the role, and I really liked Shaggy in this movie. To be fair, maybe I only like Shaggy because I feel like him since I haven't been able to get a haircut. But overall, I thought Shaggy and Scooby were really great and they were the saving grace of this movie. But unfortunately, they could not save the messy story and a lot of the other problems, so let's get into the problems with Scoob. Okay, to start off, I am definitely not saying I'm smarter than the people who wrote Scoob. They are probably much better writers than I would be. And it's also a lot easier to criticize movies than to make them. Also, before I say the negatives, I have heard so many kids tell me that they love this movie. So this movie did appeal to its age demographic, and I think that's great. But now I have to get into the problems of this film that didn't work for me. It's so weird that this movie is so messy because the people who wrote this movie also wrote Playing with Fire, which is usually regarded as the best film ever made. So for them to make something that wasn't that good, it just doesn't seem like something they could even do. I think the real problem with the Scooby-Doo movie is that it feels nothing like a Scooby-Doo movie. Instead of just doing a Scooby-Doo mystery, they split up the team, and they throw superhero adventures in there, and they throw Blue Falcon and a robot dog. It no longer feels like a Scooby-Doo movie. Because when you think Scooby-Doo, you think the team working together to solve a little mystery, and you have some fun along the way, like the premise of the show, like the theme song says. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, we got a mystery to solve. I mean, it's so simple, but like if this movie had a theme song, it'd be more like this. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Because you got abducted by a superhero with a robot dog who's trying to stop a villain from finding prehistoric skulls, and then that's gonna unleash the doors to the underworld, and then that's gonna release Alexander the Great's three-headed dog, and Scooby-Dooby. I'm really sorry, and I apologize for you having to hear me sing. I didn't mean to make you jealous. Oh! I think they took away everything that makes something Scooby-Doo, like the mysteries and the team working together, and then they replaced it with superhero stuff, and then, like, when you get the final product, it's just not Scooby-Doo anymore. Like, the Scoob movie splits up the team. Like, when you go to see a Scooby-Doo movie, you want to see the team work together, and you want to see their friendship and dynamic, but you never get to really feel that. And we barely see them together. It's such an easy fix, just keep the team together. It sort of feels like we need a normal Scooby-Doo movie before we get all this cinematic universe stuff. If we had a regular Scooby-Doo movie before this one, it would have set up the characters, and we've got a feel for how these characters work before we sent them into this craziness world. Because now it just feels like they skip over all the stuff you want to see in a Scooby-Doo movie. It's like if the MCU started with Avengers. The Avengers works because all the characters were set up, and them coming together works. But for this movie, these characters aren't set up, and we barely know them before they're split apart and thrown into this thing, and it doesn't work. They rushed into this new world they were trying to create way too fast, and therefore broke what could have been a really cool franchise. Another mess with this movie is that this movie wants you to know that these people who made this movie, they're pretty cool. There are just so many references to pop culture and stuff. And it's like, this movie really wants you to know, hey, we're cool. Hey, we're cool. We're the people who made Scooby-Doo, and we're cool. And we know what you fellow kids are into, because we're cool, and we're hip. We're down. We're the bee's knees. It actually feels like the movie is like, yeah, we are so in tune with kids. We know exactly what they like in 2020. Dabbing. I've always felt like Scooby-Doo was timeless, but they really want to drive home the fact that this movie is modern. And it's not that all the jokes are bad, and because some of them are really funny. It's just, they just keep on throwing pop culture and pop culture and pop culture, and you're just like it takes me out of the movie. It's like, it doesn't feel like I'm watching a movie anymore. It's just like, oh, that's funny, you referenced that person. That's, oh, you referenced that app. Oh, wow, you guys know what social media is? Like, what if they, like, did they want the audience to go like, what? Fred doesn't know what Tinder is? What? Fred doesn't know you have to pay for Netflix? What? Blue Falcon said the word DM. I thought only teens knew what those things were. Like, were they expecting teens to be like, wow, I always thought Scooby-Doo was so lame, but now that they know what Snapchat is, Scooby-Doo is lit. This movie is a mess, and I think you can break down why in just a few key points. The first reason it's a mess is because it wants to set up a new Scooby-Doo team, but it immediately splits them up. And we never really get a feel for the team and their dynamic, because it's more interested in setting up this cinematic universe than really giving us these good starter characters and a good new team. Point number 2, it also just doesn't really mesh with the superhero tone that they're going for. It no longer feels like what Scooby-Doo should feel like. And it feels like they want to make this a superhero movie just because they're like, hey, superhero movies make lots of cash, and I quite like cash. I enjoy large amounts of cash. But it feels like they just want to make it a superhero story, not because they had a good Scooby-Doo story, because they were just like, it's gonna make more money that way. And the third reason is there's just too many pop culture references. And while they're not all bad, I think it just kind of muddles the story because it no longer feels like this timeless Scooby-Doo. Some of the jokes are just cringe. Like, I watched Falcon dab. Like I will never not see that. Like, I watched a movie character in 2020 dab. Like, I will never recover from that. To be honest, just for dabbing, I should give this movie an F. But I'm being nice, okay? I'm being nice. Okay, this movie was a mess, and I think it should have just been a simple Scooby-Doo mystery with hints to this bigger world that we could have explored in sequels. Like Iron Man did not set up the entire MCU. It told one character's story and had hints through the Avengers. That's what this movie should have been. It should have told a story of Scooby-Doo and have hints that there's a bigger universe coming. I mean, to be fair though, it could have been worse. They could have stopped that three-headed dog at the end by pulling a bagpipe out of its butt, like Doolittle did.
Okay, I'm back. What did I miss? Oh my god!
One last push, madam, if you please.
Like Scoob, there's a bagpipe up there.